Pathmonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding Pathmonk to your website in seconds, letting the AI do all the work, and increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. All right, welcome to today's episode of Pathmonk Presents. Today we are joined by our guest, Robert Carnes. He's the marketing director at Mellen, and he's also the author of Story Cycle. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Of course, of course. So let's get to the basics for a second, Robert. So you're an author and you're also a marketing director. So can you tell us a little bit about the work you're doing at Mellen? Tell us about your company a little bit. And if you were explaining it over coffee to a friend, how would you describe what you do?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great way to frame it. So the boilerplate, I suppose, is that we're a boutique marketing firm here in Atlanta, Georgia. So we serve clients a lot of different ways. Digital marketing can mean a lot of different things, but ultimately we help people get found and grow their business by having a better digital marketing presence. So a lot of that is your website, but also social media, blogging, email, all those lists of services. We've been in business since 2009, so a little over 15 years. This will be year 16. We have a relatively small team, full-time employees. We've got 9 people on our team. We have about 15 other contractors who work with us, copywriters, designers, web developers who we call on when we need a little bit more work to serve our clients. And we also really value, I guess, 2 things very highly is responsiveness. We really want to be that agency who's not going to leave you in the dark and leave you wondering where those people went. Like we really, really care about being responsive and having really good customer service by following up quickly. And we also really care about education. And so making sure, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more later, but we have a lot of different things that we do in the community and online to try to make sure that people understand kind of the best practices and good things to do with digital marketing, because there's plenty of bad out there. And so we want to help people kind of do things the right way, whether they're our client or not, but we're trying to kind of help build a brighter web through better digital marketing.
I love it. And does that have anything to do with, we were talking offline. I know there's something kind of coming up soon in October, I think, right?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to talk about that for a second, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been hosting community marketing meetups for about the past 10 years. So, gathering of 30 to 40 kind of local marketing folks, some small business owners, other like marketing freelancers. We kind of have a nice community here in Atlanta of people we know and like and work with. And so again, we do that every month. We kind of just pick a topic and talk about it. But we've been talking about for a couple of years now, what if we did that on a larger scale and actually had like a marketing conference? And so we're trying that out for the first time. The first Brighter Web conference is here in Atlanta on October 9th of 2025. So we're planning all that. And we thought, okay, this will be easy. We've done these events before, and there's a lot more logistics that go into planning a much larger event. But again, we've got a couple months to put that together. We've got a great lineup of awesome speakers. So if anybody is here in Atlanta or wants to travel to Atlanta, you can check out the first Brighter Web conference. We're very excited about it and hope to have a good turnout. But yeah, that's kind of one of the big things that we've got coming up on the horizon that is very much in line with that focus on education.
Yeah, very cool. And I'm sure it is exciting. And I'm sure also the logistics side of things, it's a little bit crazy, right?
Yes, it is.
But that's good. It's gonna, get people together, people will shake hands and be in the same room. I think that's a particular kind of energy when that happens. And yeah, I'm glad you guys are doing it. Hope it's a great success. So just going back to Green Mellen, are there any specific businesses or industries where you feel like your services really shine? Or maybe, as a segue, is there a key problem that you have these businesses solve? And and what kind of experience can they expect when they work with you?
Sure. Yeah, our kind of target market, the folks that we tend to work best with some exceptions, are small to mid-sized B2B service companies. So we're not doing a bunch of B2C, we're not doing a bunch of product-focused stuff. Like we've done e-commerce in the past, but realized that takes a very different kind of model than we do. And so a lot of our businesses are professional service companies like accountants or lawyers, construction companies, business coaches, wealth management companies. I mean, there's a lot of different industries that we could get into, but that's kind of the model that we tend to work best with. And so that has a very unique kind of set of problems of how they get found, because oftentimes that's a long kind of sales cycle for how they get new clients in, right? It's not a very transactional model like some e-commerce can be. So, you know, a lot of it is about relationships. A lot of it is about building long-term kind of trust and partners. It's a lot of word of mouth marketing and referral sources.
Mm.
And so again, we do a lot of digital stuff. You can influence word of mouth and you can influence those professional relationships, but it's something you more have to kind of foster and cultivate and nurture over time. So it's a pretty unique challenge that we're trying to help these businesses solve. And really, it's just by having a good, solid, consistent online presence that helps to better influence some of those business decisions that are happening. So again, it's always kind of a moving target that you're trying to hit. But yeah, that's kind of the most common type of business that we work with, and that's the kind of most common problem that we're trying to help them solve.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Maybe you can look at this from a lens of looking at as a marketing director of Mellen, or maybe from your client's perspective, right? But how much of a role do you think a website plays in pulling in your clients? And I guess from your experience, just looking at, I'm sure that by now, maybe hundreds of websites. Is there anything about websites that you think, really works when it comes to converting, or anything that you think people should have their eye on improving?
Sure. Yeah. So thinking about that role that the website plays in this kind of the buyer's journey of, especially of like a B2B service company, like I alluded to before, it's really about kind of establishing that trust. It's about building credibility and showing what they can do. Oftentimes, the website isn't always the first place that somebody has heard of a business. And that's true for, again, for Green Mellen as a marketing agency, but also true for a lot of our clients, is that they may have heard about them from a networking event or because they sponsored a community gathering, or they bumped into each other on LinkedIn or something like that, right? So oftentimes they're coming to the website to answer a few key questions because, hey, we're thinking about doing business with these people, but we want to kind of verify who they are, what their clients think of them, just trying to really establish that trust and credibility. And so that's, again, different from transactional e-commerce where you're trying to convert and optimize in that way. But it really is about kind of putting the best foot forward and saying, hey, you're making a wise decision by doing business with us, by trusting us as a partner. It's just kind of solidifying that relational piece. And so I think so much of how to do that well, I would say, is just having a very clear, well-written message on your website. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You also want to be you want to be discoverable online with SEO. You want to be very technically sound to make sure the website's loading properly. Should have a good design. All of those things are incredibly important. But I'm a copywriter. I'm an author by trade, and so that's often where my mind goes to. And that's one of the big services that we offer to our clients, is having like a very clear messaging strategy, so that if somebody is trying to check that box and sell this new relationship to their boss, maybe by going to the website, you're giving them a very clear message is that, hey, we understand the problem that you have. We offer a solution and a service that can get you there. And this is the team that can, be the guide in your journey to helping overcome this problem, right? There's a lot of very beautiful websites that don't have that clear message, that are a little too vague, that hasn't taken the time to kind of write and craft that message in a way that's going to be compelling and interesting to people. We often write off and just assume, well, nobody reads websites anymore, right? The text is just kind of, it's just there. People just are going to skim it. but maybe we haven't thought about like, well, what if we try to really make it interesting? What if we tried to make that writing compelling so that they wanted to read the words on our page? And yeah, you want to make it short. You want to make it where it's got, H1 and H2 headers so that they can kind of find the right information on the page. But don't just assume that they're not going to read it. Like actually put the time and effort into crafting a message, into crafting copy on your website that's really going to help them understand why you can benefit them. And I think that's going to be one of the big things, and one of the things that can really change a website from kind of blasé to actually converting more leads to new clients.
Is the art and the science of copywriting, right? That's some
Yes.
magic behind it. Yeah, that's a really good point. The messaging has to be spot on, right? And maybe I want to hone in on this for a second. So talking about, messaging or what actually makes a website convert, right? Um, do you have any tools or maybe even frameworks? We can get into copywriting frameworks or, whatever the case. What have you seen works uh, across the years in your experience?
Sure. So I've got two thoughts on frameworks and two tools that I can suggest. So let's, I
Great.
guess, look at the frameworks first. The one that's kind of somewhat the industry standard, at least in my experience, for kind of marketing messaging is Donald Miller's Story Brand. So I think a lot of people are familiar with that. Maybe some people aren't. So if you haven't checked out Building a Story Brand is kind of the book that he wrote, gosh, I think like 15 or 20 years ago that really introduced this idea. And it's not a new idea. It's actually similar to the book that I wrote about how to use the framework for storytelling and taking people on a journey and helping to establish yourself as a guide in that journey. Like that's kind of a lot of the path of what's going to get you a lot clearer in that process. There's another kind of looser framework and more just kind of a philosophy of how to approach strategy work in marketing. I think it's called just No BS Strategy. And it's Alex M. Smith, I believe, is the author. He's got a very popular newsletter and LinkedIn profile and book as well. That is all. It's kind of complementary to the Donald Miller Building a Story Brand. It's more about how you stack up in comparison to the competition. How, don't just say that you're the best at something. Really figure out what makes you unique and stand out to everybody else, so that you're the only company that does X, Y, or Z. And if you can really fill that gap and not just be the best in an industry, but like be the only one in this unique niche that you're filling, then you're going to be a lot more compelling and interesting. And maybe you turn some people off as a result, but it just kind of forces you to think differently in a big case. So he's somebody that I've been following recently, Alex M. Smith, who's got a lot of really interesting ideas on how to just cut through the BS and be a lot clearer on your strategy. So those are kind of two frameworks that I play with. I don't stick to either one of them religiously, right? That you kind of have to take a little bit of the good with the bad and find what works for your business. But those are both very compelling and interesting frameworks. And then two tools quickly that I use, partially for copywriting, a lot for kind of optimizing the words that I'm using on not just the website, but also just marketing content in general. One is called the Hemingway app. Again, something people may be familiar with, but maybe it's a new tool for you. It's been around for a long time, and it's a free app that's out there, and it's named after the American author Ernest Hemingway, who notoriously was very sparse in his prose, was very kind of limited and focused on what he said. So that's the goal of the tool. You just drop in the text that you're trying to analyze, and it gives you like how readable it is. It highlights certain kind of problematic words or phrases that are complex or confusing or vague, and says like, maybe you should swap these out and rewrite these parts to make it more clear of what you're trying to say. So that's, I mean, it takes time to be able to do that, but it speeds up that process and gives you kind of an objective tool that helps you identify the problematic areas of what you've written. And then the final tool is it's called Headline Studio. It's by a company called CoSchedule. They've got a couple other different kind of marketing tools. But this one really helps you focus on, again, those H1, H2 headers of your website and really make those clear and compelling. It looks at the structure and the length and the word choices that you're using in those headlines and again, gives you suggestions and ideas of where to improve. Because we know that, like, hey, nobody's going to read a big block of text unless you've really hooked them in with that header, right? So if you can get that headline right first, that's going to kind of be the thing that tries to draw people in a little bit more. And it's also nice. Again, I said it works with your website, but it also works for writing podcast episode headlines, for video titles, for email subject lines. Like, it's a really good. It helps you focus on a lot of different other areas of marketing copywriting too. So yeah, those are just a couple practical tools that I've used for the past couple of years with some success, with being a little bit more clear and consistent with my copywriting.
Awesome. I knew about Hemingway. I used that
Mhm.
before for writing. I didn't know about the other one. It sounds like it could be a killer tool for creating hooks, right? And as
Yes.
many people say, the hook is like 90% of the work. I don't know if I agree with that, but it is true that you need to hook people in if you want them to read further, right? And scroll or read your blog post, you read whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
what was the name of that one again?
It's called Headline Studio, and it's by
Cool.
a
All right.
company called CoSchedule, who's got a lot of other different marketing tools. Yeah,
Very good. Well, thanks for that. That's sounds like a gem.
of course.
Amazing. All right. So let's switch gears for a second, Robert. I just want to talk about you as a leader. So can you give us a glimpse into what your typical workday looks like and what are the main things you focus on day to day?
Yeah. A lot of my responsibility at Green Mellen is doing our client strategy work. So a good bit of my time on a daily or weekly basis is spent writing some of the marketing and messaging strategies for our clients, doing a lot of the research and interviews with the clients or maybe their audience to try to help back up what parts of that strategy need to happen. And so the strategy work is a big part of my day to day. I do a little bit of our copywriting. We have some contract copywriters that I've had to shed more of that work over time as we've gotten busier and we've had more clients and I've increased in responsibility. So it's a good thing, but I also, again, that's my background is copywriting. It's the thing that I enjoy doing. So it's one of the things that I need to give up more so, but do so, a little hesitantly because I enjoy the copywriting. But so, I've stepped in more now, just kind of leading and overseeing some of those contractors to do that work, which is also fine. We have quarterly check-ins with each of our marketing clients to try to make sure that we're, on point, we're setting new goals as we move forward, that we're rechecking the scope and adjusting as we need to. It's a really valuable touch point every 3 months to realign with each one of our clients. And so I'm the one who leads that. I work with our marketing team to kind of prepare all the content we're going to talk about during that meeting, make sure we get all the tasks and details out of that meeting that we need to do. But running those meetings, takes quite a bit of time and effort to make sure that we're having good, consistent communication with each one of our clients. And then also the Brighter Web initiative, that educational kind of arm of our company, is also something that I like to contribute to. It's something that I enjoy and find very valuable and get a lot out of. We have a podcast as well that's kind of underneath that. So I co-host that podcast, helping to lead our monthly meetings, getting guest speakers for that, inviting people to that, preparing for the conference that we talked about earlier, doing all of those little things to kind of help build up that community that very much goes hand in hand, because that's where many people learn about Green Mellen, and we get a lot of either leads through that or interest in that. We get referral clients through that kind of thing too. So it's, a lot of focus is put on the digital side of things, but we grow and build credibility and awareness over time through those kind of community efforts. So that's kind of another piece of what I'm doing on my day-to-day job.
So only that? I mean,
Only that. Yeah, that's it.
only
I'm sure there's a
that.
few things I missed too. It stacks up.
I'm sure, but I'm not surprised. When you work in an agency, that the pace is typically, pretty fast. And then when you work in marketing, also, yeah, that on top, right? And then you have to wear so many different hats. So yeah, congrats to you for being able to stay sane in all of that.
I'm not so sure sometimes. I try to be that way, but yeah, it's
Hey,
a
that's
it's a full
what the
load.
writing is for, right? That
Yeah.
writing, it's something, at least for me, something that grounds me. Like, I obviously if you do it for work, it's a different thing, but many times it's just, being able to be in that flow state, just being, in a land of no time and no space. in a way, right? That time goes by so quickly.
Yeah.
That's for me.
No, you're absolutely right about that. That's why I have to have
Yeah.
some sort of creative outlet. Some
Right.
people have art or exercise, but yeah, creative writing, both fiction and nonfiction, is kind of the thing that helps me get through and express myself. So yeah, well said.
Awesome. So, Robert, as we wrap things up, I want to jump into the rapid fire segment of this podcast. If you're happy with that, the only unspoken rule we have is that, for a concise question, we would love a concise answer.
Sure.
You happy with that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, what's the latest book you picked up, and were there any gems or ideas that really stuck with you?
Trying to keep that concise. So I am currently reading and about finished with a book called 4,000 Weeks. That's all about, it's the subheader is time management for mortals. So it's all about kind of what we talked about before. How do you juggle and manage all of the many demands that we have on our plate, and also stay sane? And part of it is just slowing down and taking time to find things that enrich ourselves and yeah, give us value that isn't necessarily work. So there's a lot more that's in there. It's a great book, but it's all about, yeah, how do you stay sane in this thing we call life?
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, if you had a magic wand and could fix one frustrating thing in your marketing life with tech, what would it be?
I'm gonna put one foot on my soapbox a little bit because this is you wanted a concise answer, but if I could get people to stop sending super scammy emails or doing cold calling, I would wave that magic wand and make those go away because it unfortunately corrodes trust because there's so many people who are doing it in negative ways, and trying to trick people and be manipulative with marketing, that it undermines the trust and credibility that those of us who are trying to do the good things with marketing and trying to genuinely reach people in the right ways. So I've just seen a lot of that in my position, and so yeah, I would love for more people to take a more ethical, brighter approach to marketing rather than taking unnecessary shortcuts.
Fair, fair enough. That's a good point. Okay, so last rapid fire question. If you could go back and give your past self a quick pep talk at the start of your journey, what advice would you drop?
Don't chase all of the shiny trends in marketing, including things like just the latest social media. Well, either the platform or the trend that's happening on that platform. Try to just focus on the basics. Try to stick with stuff that might be seen as boring by other people, because oftentimes that's the stuff that works, and more people overlook those things rather than actually taking the time to get them done right. And so invest into those kind of long-term evergreen marketing tactics rather than just kind of trying to chase the next new thing. I think that would have maybe saved me some heartache in the early days of my career.
Well, what a lesson to close. Robert, I want to thank you a lot for being on the show with us today. And I also want to give you the last word. So, if someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is the one thing they should remember about Mellen? And where can they find you?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the easy answer first. You can find us at greenmelonmedia.com. We're on most of the major social channels, so certainly follow us, subscribe to our email newsletter, and check out kind of the things that we're doing. But yeah, I think in general, education and trying to stay up to date on what is trending, but then also what is timeless in marketing is really what we try to emulate and encourage others to do as well, and do marketing in an ethical and a upright way, that asking yourself the question, if everyone did this, would the world be a better place or a worse place? And ultimately, we always try to err on the side of like, we want to do the things that are going to make the world a better place through better marketing rather than some of the practices that we don't like as much. That's what Green Mellen tries to stand for, and that's what I try to stand for in my marketing journey.
Awesome. Love that message. That's positive and encouraging. So, Robert, thanks again for being on the show with us today. Really appreciate it. And we hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Of course. All right. Bye, everyone.